Alrighty, so today we're going to be learning how to make a sliding lid box with a dovetail lid and box. So I'll put a video on the screen right now demonstrating what the box looks like in person and how it works, and then we'll just start to learn how to make it. So let's make a new design, and let's start by saving our project. We'll call it sliding box tutorial dovetail. Now we'll get into why we're doing it as a dovetail in a minute. So let's make a new component. Let's call this the box. Now we're going to do a small one because we're going to be 3D printing it and we don't want it to take too long. This is, after all, just a tutorial. So let's start by making the box. Let's create a new sketch and let's do it on this plane. And we're going to do 25 by 50 millimeters. So let's finish our sketch and let's extrude 25 millimeters up. So now we have our box. Now let's give it a shell. You can click the shell tool, click the top of the box, and then we can decide how thick we want our walls. So I already did some troubleshooting, but we get the thinnest I'd really go with this size box would be like 3 to 2 millimeters. As you can see, this is the thinnest part, so you kind of have to worry about how thin that is going to be, because this right now is like a millimeter. So if we go from measure from here to here, yeah, this is 1.845, so it's 2 millimeters. So you just have to think when you're designing, how will this hold up when it prints? Will it break? But about 2 millimeters of filament is plenty. So we'll make our walls 3 millimeters. So now that we have the box, what we need to do is we need to cut out where the lid is actually going to slide in. So let's create another sketch and let's do it on this face. This is where we'll cut out. So if we take a look behind, we can see that this is where the wall is, but we can't see it on this face. So if we press P on our keyboard, we can actually project this. So if we click this line and this line, it projects it onto this face, so you know where the walls are. So right now, let's just draw a center line. We'll make this a construction line with this button, and we'll find the middle using the triangle. We'll draw a center line, and then also we're going to draw a line right here, just parallel to the top. And let's dimension this. What this dimension will be is the width of your lid. So I'm not going to do 3 millimeters because that's the thickness of my walls. I'll do 2. So it'll be a thinner lid. Let's actually make this a solid line. So let's click the construction button. So click on the line, make it solid. So now that we have this, let's cut out the dovetail. Now you might be thinking, well, why don't we just go like this and make it so the box slides into that? Well, you could do that, but the problem is we're going to be 3D printing this. So if you try and design it so that it's like this and the lid slides into there, you're going to need support here. It might not print well. You also might even get like some overhang here when it supports that it just wouldn't slide well. So what you want to do is you want to make this what's called a dovetail. So instead of doing that square, we're going to make it a line like this, right? So most 3D printers can print on overhangs of 45 degrees. So as long as this angle is 45 degrees or greater, you'll be able to 3D print it, usually, depending on your printer. So we're going to be safe and do 60 degrees because 45, I mean, you're pushing the limits and you might get a little bit of overhang. Once again, just making that joint more friction, and you don't really want that. So we made 60 degrees. So this is easily 3D printable. And then this area is where the lid will be. So let's use the mirror tool. Click mirror. And we're going to click this line. And we're just going to mirror it over there, across this line. Using the mirror line, click this. We're going to mirror it across. So now that we can click finish sketch. And now we have what we're going to cut out. So let's press extrude. And let's extrude to this face to here. So what I just did there was I just clicked extrude, just clicked this face, and then instead of doing a certain number, right, like -10 and having to figure out or just sliding it, what I just did is I just clicked the face I want to extrude to, and it went right to it. So now it's perfectly to there. So now let's get into the lid. We have the dovetail shape that the lid will slide into, but now let's do the lid. So let's go back up to here. Let's click on this. This button right here makes it so you're not working in the box component anymore. You're working in the project. So if we click make this invisible, the component disappears. That's the box. Let's make a new component. Call this lid. And so now we have two components. So we have our box. Now if we made a sketch right here and we just extruded off this, the lid would actually be connected to the box. We don't want that. So what we're going to do is use the offset face tool, offset plane. You click this, and you click the face that you want to offset off of, which is the back of the box, the back wall of the box, right? So let's do that. Now this is where it gets into your 3D printer specifics. I know that if I want two items to join together in Fusion or join together when I 3D print them, there needs to be a 0.1 millimeter difference when I design it. So if I design a 10 millimeter by 10 millimeter square and I want something to fit inside of it, the thing that fits inside of it needs to be 9.9, and that's to get a press fit. So we're going to make this offset by 1.1 millimeter, because when I do that, when the lid slides forward, it will be sealed up with this. If I didn't offset this, it would be overhanging over here. So it would be overhanging. It'd be 0.1 millimeter too long. So that's just the 3D printers. They're not 100% accurate. You'll always have a little bit of overhang or bigger tolerances. It's called tolerance. Yeah, tolerance is what it's called. So I know that 0.1 is to get a press fit and 0.2 is to get a sliding fit, which we'll get to later. So now that we have this offset face, let's create a sketch on this. And so we see our geometry here. Let's use project tool again, press P on your keyboard, and we'll project the box geometry. So now we have where our lid is going to go inside of. Now if we recall, I said that I need 0.2 millimeters difference if I want to make it fit perfectly, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to use the offset tool. We're going to press O and click on the geometry we want to offset, which is this. So now let's do 0.2 millimeters. This also depends on your 3D printer. You might have a super accurate 3D printer and you only need to do 0.1 to get a sliding fit. But for me, I have an Ender 3 V3 SE. I know I need 0.2 millimeters. So let's do 0.2. Now, obviously it did the whole shape, which we don't need, but we can ignore that for right now. So now what we want to do is we want to close this shape so we have a lid that we can extrude. So let's just grab the line. Let's just go from here, the tip of the box, to the other end, just right here. So now we have this lid that we can extrude. So this is perfect. So now let's extrude. Let's grab that face. As you can see, we're not grabbing anywhere else, just the lid. We're ignoring this gap. We're ignoring this. We just want to extrude. And then once again, we'll just go to this face. So that's our lid. So now if we go back to the project button, click on this, we have our box. So now our box is done. I'm going to add one more thing, and that's going to be this little thumb hole, just so you can put your nail in there and can slide the lid off easier. So let's add that right now. If you don't want to do that, you can stop watching. Thank you for watching. Let's do an offset plane again. So let's offset from here. Oh, wait, let's make sure that we're under the lid component. Almost forgot. So let's do an offset plane. And we don't want it to be this far in. We don't want it to be right here. We'll just do 2.5 millimeters in. And we'll create another sketch. And we'll create it on this plane. This one. Okay. So right now I'm going to constrain how deep the hole is. I'm going to do 0.5 millimeters because it's for your nail. So it doesn't need to be deep at all. Let's project this geometry so we can dimension off of it. So let's dimension this, 0.5. let's make another construction line. Just drag till you find the center with the triangle. That means you found the center. So now that we've done that, let's actually make this a solid line. And then how wide do we want the thumb hole to be, right? So let's decide now. Let's say 5 millimeters wide. So I'll just draw a rectangle starting from here to here. We know it's 0.5 millimeters deep. We know it's 5 millimeters. So now that we do that, we can just dimension this to the middle, like this, 2.5, because 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. So now it's perfectly centered. And then let's use the fillet tool. Click on fillet. We're going to click this corner, and then we're going to fillet this. Let's do 0.5 because that's how deep the nail spot is. So now let's actually use the mirror tool. Press mirror. Mirror line is going to be this. And now we have it over here. Let's press OK. Finish sketch. And then we'll just extrude this and we'll be done. So let's make the body invisible real quick so we can just see the sketch. So what we'll do is we'll click on bodies, make it invisible. And then we'll just click on the face we want to extrude. Let's bring back the body. And we'll do, what do we say, 2.5. Perfect. So now you have a nice little thumbnail spot for you to grab the lid from. So there you have it. That is a sliding lid dovetail box. There you go. Thank you for watching.